This is Via Voices, the podcast that brings you insights from the champions of international education. I'm your host, Brooke Roberts, and together we'll uncover the stories behind impactful global learning experiences and the professionals who make them possible. Preparing students to thrive in a connected world is key to tackling the world's biggest challenges, and Vivian Wang is leading that charge.
I think we need to truly be there and be strong and to really convey our message for that transformational experience for students choosing the United States as their destination or study abroad.
Originally from Shanghai, Vivian came to Oklahoma as an international student and experienced firsthand the culture shock that often comes with studying abroad. Now, as VP for Global Engagement at the University of Tulsa, she leads the university's international strategy to building partnerships across Oklahoma and the world. Hi, Vivian. Welcome to the Via Voices podcast.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited to chat with you today. We were on sort of a roundtable discussion all about data-driven decision-making, which sounds not that interesting, but it was really, really great conversation. So I was excited to have you on the show.
It's great.
And learn more about you and your story. So let's start there. Tell me how you found your way into international education as a career.
Yeah, so I actually came as an international student about 2 decades ago. As many other international students want to pursue their academic journey in the U.S., and so I was one of them. Came to the United States as pursue my master and PhD. Never thought I would be remaining in this field and to really continue to benefit many other students that what I have experienced as an international student, and also this whole international education has shaped not just my career path, but personal path.
Right.
So, so
So
here I am.
Do you mind sharing where did you come from and what were you coming to study? What was the plan originally?
Yeah, interestingly, my hometown is Shanghai.
Oh, nice.
China.
Big city girl. Yeah.
Right. So I studied in Stillwater, Oklahoma.
Wow.
It was a culture shock.
Yes.
I was not prepared when I landed in Oklahoma City airport. I was imagining similar to, Shanghai. There's multiple terminals and there was one door. It was under construction at that time. I remember so clearly. It was under construction. I barely saw that door exit. It was so dark. Those international flights arrive very late.
Yeah.
I start feeling like, is this the place? There's no lights. There's no human being, sort of, right? The highway 35 all the way to Stillwater, an hour, 30 minutes. I got to this apartment. I start crying.
Oh.
I said, this is okay. So I guess I was not very well prepared, but I loved it. I loved every moment when I studied at Oklahoma State. And that was, I was studying in educational leadership.
Oh, okay.
It's sort of relevant to what I do now.
Totally, yeah.
And my graduate assistantship was with International Student Scholars Office. That's how set my path.
Yeah.
Later on became director of global partnerships and doing all the things I love to do, and then 2.5 years ago, I came to the University of Tulsa.
That's so cool. I'm curious, when you're back in Shanghai, were you kind of initially thinking you were going to work in the university system there? Did you have a career path in mind back in China? Or did you think, I really love U.S. higher education? Or what made you decide this direction was where you wanted to go?
It's funny that you asked. I actually was a K-12 English teacher for about a year before I came to the U.S. and dealing with kids, 12, 13 years old. I felt like this is really not what I want to do.
Yeah.
Like many other, international students or Chinese students in particular, a lot of the careers were chosen by parents. And they see that I should be an English teacher. It's a great profession. I will be so good at this. I struggled. So that was also one of the reasons I decided to study abroad. And I wasn't sure what my major would be, but I knew it would not be related to K-12.
Yeah. Great. Well, we're lucky that you chose to come here for sure. That's such a cool story. I could ask you many, many more questions, but we're going to move on. So tell me a little bit about your role at University of Tulsa. So what have you oversee? What are your responsibilities? Things like that.
Yeah, so I'm currently serving as the Vice Provost for Global Engagement. And so within my division, the Center for Global Engagement, we're responsible for international recruitment, international undergraduate mission, student services, the ISSS, study abroad, both the semester-long exchange as well as the faculty-led travel courses, international partnerships, and a little bit about the alumni engagement as well. So it's everything under us, in a sense. I think as a smaller private institution, we have this very centralized system. Everything related to global affairs is sort of under the Center for Global Engagement.
So I'm curious, I've talked to a lot of different people from many different types of institutions. In the Tulsa context, how do you all measure, success? What are your goals that you're looking for? How are you measuring against those goals?
That's a great question. I think for me, the success is twofold, right? It's obviously we need to align our success with the institutional priorities. We have to really address what the institutional mission is and how our president, our institution wants to prioritize in terms of internationalization, whether it's the study abroad participation or international student enrollment or partnership engagement. So we look at all those areas. Our president is very passionate about study abroad global learning experience. And so he has this lofty goal already set before I came. And so 80% of study abroad participation rate. We also, the University of Tulsa in the past, they enjoyed a large number of international students studying our campus because of our tradition and strength in petroleum engineering. So we used to have 25% of total population were international student. We're down a little bit. So that's also another area we're looking into to make sure we're successful to truly being a global institution. The second area, I think it's really personal. I want to make sure our student is successful. Either their international students have a positive experience on our campus, or our students study abroad that have a great impactful experience while they're abroad. So the student success is also very important as part of how I define my success as this role.
That's great. Yeah. So obviously, VIA is a technology company, so I'm always very curious about how international educators are leveraging technology and how they interact with their various stakeholders. Can you talk a little bit about how you all use technology at Tulsa?
Technology, data, everything's so essential what we do nowadays, right? I think it's, you touched it a little bit. I think it's so important that we have those information, those data, and to really convey our story and our impact to the stakeholders. We report to the board of trustees. I present every quarterly. I have to share, the data about our students' experience, study abroad, international student enrollment, alumni engagement. Those data we look at both externally and internally. The externally, we all know, the IE, all the different market intelligence data that really help us reflect the national trend. But internally, we look at, the yield rate and to the extent the social media engagement, right? How our social media are being engaged, how many followers, those really shares insights of, are we moving to the right direction? How we utilize those data to adjust our strategies. And so it's almost like a daily work into the attendance of our international programs and how students feedback, including even exit interviews.
That is so funny. I have to tell you a little story. So back in 2012, I presented at a conference about how different universities and providers were leveraging social media to engage students in the experience, not just for marketing. I tell the story a lot, so people may have already heard it, but how you get the feedback forms and things about your session. And it was very well attended. And my co-presenters and I, we were very proud of what we did. But we got one response from someone, and the person said, in the 25 years I've been in international education, this is the most terrifying session I have ever been in. And went on to say about how leveraging social media was a disgrace to international education. Goes against I was so shocked. And so now, 13 years later, sitting across from you, obviously a very well-respected practitioner, scholar in our space, and saying social media is an important.
It is important.
Even metric to understanding how we're engaging students. So I just like the evolution there. That's very, very fun.
Right.
So
it's an industry,
right?
Yeah. It's normal. And any non-educational industry, you engage social influencers, promotions and things.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to be mindful who we serve
mm-hmm.
and that's how students respond.
Mm-hmm.
And like we talk about study abroad, that's how they know about where the study abroad programs are, right?
Yeah, totally. So, obviously there's a lot of challenges, changes, confusion right now, especially in international education as a result of various political situations and decisions happening right now. Is there something that you're most concerned about right now? I know you're probably concerned about everything, but is there something that stands out to you? And how do you think we should address that particular issue?
Where should we start?
I know.
Right.
Well, you can focus on one for now. It's only a 20-minute podcast.
Right.
Yeah.
I would say we don't lose our focus and our mission in the midst of all the things that we're experiencing, from the cutting of the grants to, students' concerns about the travel, and to many of our study abroad, the grants,
mm-hmm.
Gilman, Fulbright is on hold. I think we need to truly be there and be strong and to really convey our message of our mission is for that transformational experience
mm-hmm.
for students, either choosing United States as their destination or study abroad.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to stay strong. I don't have a particular concern on one specific area.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, our concern is similar to many other institutions. I think I'm more concerned about the students being so hesitant of going
mm-hmm.
Abroad
right.
because of the funding issues, because of the geopolitical concerns. And also, we're no longer the top destination of international students.
Right.
When they think about the United States, it's no longer the same.
Yeah. I'm curious, if you don't mind sharing, are your recruiters noticing any rumblings or any kind of, impacts over the last couple of months?
I think our international student audience are not following as closely as we do as professionals, but I think we certainly, right, good and bad. But I think at the same time, we start noticing some countries, some students are expressing concerns of, is this the truly the American dream?
Yeah.
The academic freedom, the place they used to think about, and more concerned actually coming from parents.
Of course. Yeah, because they're following the news. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing that. I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about more of the professional side of what mm-hmm. we do. Obviously, you're very engaged in AIEA and you're presenting. Is there a particular professional development experience aside from traditional studies and degrees or resources that you've leveraged that have been most impactful for your career?
Yeah, I think this is a perfect platform to talk about that. Yeah. I truly see AIEA as my best, most powerful, impactful professional development opportunities. I still remember my first time attended a conference in 2020, right before the pandemic.
Right.
I was so excited. I loved every single session at the conference, met so many individuals I've only seen the name. Mm-hmm. At that time, I was not an SIO. I was mm-hmm. just the director of global partnerships. I was so happy to engage in those meaningful dialogues. I start looking into all the things that offered by AIEA. And I was so grateful to my SIO at the time, who I consider as my mentor, because he insisted I need to be at AIEA. And this is the right platform for me to continue to grow mm-hmm. professionally. Mm-hmm. I could not thank him enough that introduced me and allow me to mm-hmm. attend AIEA. And since then, I have been very engaged with the committees. And also, I was last year's presidential fellow. That additional layer of mentorship mm-hmm. through seasoned SIOs really helped me navigate as a new SIO in the field.
Yeah. It's interesting throughout the interviews I've done and then also just conversations throughout the conference, maybe obvious to a lot of people, but how important mentorship has been in various people's career trajectory. A lot of people have mentioned how they likely wouldn't be where they are today if they hadn't had that meaningful conversation or that mentorship over time. How are you mentoring people now that since you've received such great mentorship?
Wow. I can't agree more about mentorship. I feel like throughout my career the same way because I have such just powerful mentors either professionally and personally that really allow me to grow. So I take on the mentorship seriously, not just the entry-level staff and the staff, but also students, right? So I want to share, set as an example to our students and to our staff who are also sort of in this minority group, women, first generation immigrant, and to really see there's bright opportunities out there.
Yeah.
We need to continue to thrive and be able to pursue our passion. And so a lot of things that we do is, simply a shared information. Conferences is a great venue to empower them to see what could be out there. And sometimes it's simply just share a thank you note and a note of, you're doing great. Really makes a huge difference.
Power of a handwritten note nowadays is even more powerful than it was 20 years ago because nobody writes anything down now. Yeah. So no, that's great. So I want to move into a couple rapid fire questions. Okay. So just, tell me the first thing that comes to mind and kind of clip along here. But what was the last book you read and how did it influence how you see the world?
Wow. Oh, so I just finished the book of Simu Liu, the author. We Are Dreamers.
Okay.
It's actually personally sort of more related to me in a sense. This is someone who wrote as a second generation Chinese American. How he struggled as a second generation navigate. Parents came from the U.S. and came from China and studied in the U.S. and later on moved to Canada. And how from his lens, the second generation to struggle or thrive in this culture differences and identities. I see it so interesting because I'm also a mom.
Right.
I see this from my kids' lens, how they will eventually struggle or, benefit from this culture difference and how they navigate these culture identities. Yeah. And I was so, even though his parents a little bit older generation than me, but it's just so relevant to what I have gone through the experience. So it's really fascinating. But at the same time, I'm also an educator. I also see, some of our students and how they will navigate and really give me a really new lens. It's a very interesting book.
No, I love it. I've added everyone's books to my list so far. So you all are very well read. Yeah. So I want you to sort of dream a little bit here. So if you were to remove all the technological, all the geographic, all the financial limitations, and you could solve one problem in international education, what would it be?
That question is so big.
I know. But there's a lot we could do, but what's the silver bullet for you?
I think that's also sort of personal because I came as an international student, I was part of that study abroad realm. I would say if I have a chance, I want all the students to have that experience. I think it's so transformational. It's so impactful. It's not just to change how you view the world, but also have a much better appreciation of your own culture and your own identity.
So you would basically have $1 billion to distribute.
Yeah, we're doing fundraising.
Yeah. There you go. Yes, awesome. So finally, I want to ask a little bit about paying it forward, if you will, for people who are in their career in international education now, maybe see themselves becoming an SIO maybe someday. What piece of advice would you give that person if they want to be where you are someday?
I guess I will still mention about the mentorship.
Right, yeah.
Right? It's how I see how I benefited so much and being a newcomer to the field many, many years ago and now being the new SIO. I think my other advice would be dream big, you never know.
Yeah.
I never thought I would be a SIO. I never thought I would be doing the things I'm so interested and passionate about. I still think about my first day as an international student. The international student organization president was speaking during the orientation session. I was like, oh, that's amazing. And now I make speech every day, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I think dream big and really be persistent, and you will get where you want to be.
That's great advice. I want to follow up one final question. I know I said that was the final question, but now I'm very curious. So you said, when you were back in Shanghai and your family thought you would be this amazing English teacher, and you did that for a little while, but it wasn't your passion, it wasn't your calling. What does your family think about you now, where you're sitting now?
They're proud. They never thought I would be a vice president, vice provost for a U.S. institution. Certainly they're proud. And now they're conveying that message to many of our family friends and their friends and to say, don't try to limit what they can do. Yeah. They can do more than what we can ever imagine.
Yeah, I know. Oh my God, I'm about to cry. I'm a very emotional person. I'm sorry. I feel the feels. Oh, but that's such a great story. I'm so glad that they're pleasantly
so
surprised and
they
proud.
Are surprised and proud. Yeah. And I want them to continue to be proud of me.
Yeah.
And I think we're all so proud of what we do every day.
Yeah.
I want my kids to be proud of what I do.
Yeah. That's cool. I can just imagine like your family, your parents or something walking around the neighborhood and like, my daughter's a vice president. That's so cool. Well, congratulations. Thank you so much for sitting down and chatting and sharing your story with me. And it was a great pleasure to meet you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.